Right, hello everybody, and welcome to today's webinar, Colorado Child Care State of the Industry. It's brought to you by North Metro SBDC. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in, taking the time to be here with us today. A few logistics items as we get started with the webinar. We will be taking your questions throughout the webinar, and the way that you can ask a question, your microphones are muted, but there is a question panel on the right side of your screen in the GoToWebinar. Just look for a question, and you can type in your question at any time, and we will see it, and then we'll answer it in turn, or at the end, we'll have a little question and answer period as well. In fact, if you wouldn't mind, during this intro, test it out right now and just type in your name and your business name. That way we'll know who's attending the webinar. We really appreciate that. Also, we will be making a video recording of this webinar with all the content, and we will send out an email a little bit later today that has the link so that you can review this material on YouTube. And then if you have any questions for any of us, you can also use that link to ask any follow-up questions there. We want to make sure you get all the information. Cool. My name is John Hovey. I'm a special projects consultant with North Metro SBDC, and I'm joined today by Hannah Curtis, who's a coordinator at North Metro, and also Dawn Alexander of Colorado Child Care Consultations. And Dawn is also our North Metro SBDC Child Care Consultant. We're really excited to have her on board. She's an expert in growing child care provider businesses, giving them all the support they need. And, as I'm sure we're going to see in today's presentation, the child care providers are an integral part of the entire economy. Everything rests on that. So we really value this content and this topic because it's part of the overall vitality of Colorado's economic development. Beyond this presentation, I'm really excited to talk a little bit afterwards about our partnership between the North Metro SBDC and the Early Childhood Partnership of Adams County, the ECPAC, to offer some upcoming training and consulting for child care provider businesses as well. It's really exciting new programming here, and we'll learn more about that later in the presentation. But right now, I'd like to pass the microphone over to you, Dawn, and you can line us out on the state of the industry of child care in Colorado.
Great. Thank you so much, John. So I want to tell you a little bit about my background. I raised my kids by providing care as a licensed family child care provider. So I had that opportunity to be at home with them, but to care for other children. And so that was a great foundation for learning about this system. From there, I became a licensing specialist for 3+ years. And so I got to be in the world of compliance, and then moved to Weld County Health Department as a health and safety specialist for family child care providers and by extension other programs as well. So that's kind of my background and where I come from. I will tell you that regularly I run into people that do not understand the system that they work within. There have been, with all of the block grant funding and everything that's happened in the past 7 years, the entire system has just become exponentially larger. And so that's why I felt like a training on the system and an overview of that would be good. I also want to go into, let me show you here, we're going to talk about the system overview, current policy issues, and then ultimately ways to engage. So in childcare, there's the world of compliance, and we're all familiar with that. Most family childcare providers are unaware, however, that everyone in licensing does not work down at the Office of Early Childhood in downtown Denver. There are actually subcontractors to provide those services. They include IRE, Discover Goodwill, Child Care Innovations at Red Rocks Community College. Some local counties like Mesa, Denver, Garfield, and Summit actually do those services. They're contracted with the state to offer those services locally. For centers and school-age programs, the local health departments also do health inspections. And they can also be a resource just for technical assistance for home-based care, but they do not conduct inspections for family child care programs. So I want to talk to you about the supportive programs and services that are available throughout the state. They come from different funding sources. So from the Department of Human Services, they fund the Early Childhood Council around Colorado. So every area has a council, and that council came into existence because of a 2007 legislated approved bill, House Bill 1062. So that bill created a system of early childhood councils. Their core functions are partnership and engagement, capacity building and sustainability, advocacy and policies development, professional development and leadership, and grant and fiscal management. So they are supposed to work on all of those functions in support of providers and families in their community. ECLA, the Early Childhood Leadership Alliance, provides support to the Early Childhood Council. So you might hear about them. Sometimes they have grant funding that's available that they will distribute versus the individual councils, or sometimes they have FEMA support, that sort of thing, to get out through the councils. So CCAP is the Colorado Child Care Assistance Program. They provide funding to families that are low income and qualify for child care assistance from the county. And so I put a link there for that. I will tell you that during the initial stages of COVID, the state of Colorado, through their CCAP program, came through with flying colors in support of their providers. They paid for absences for up to like 20 absences a month, which is not their normal policy, but that was a way for the state to ensure that they were able to sustain providers, even if those kids were not in care at the time because they were home with their families. There's also more of a recent push for infant and early childhood mental health consultants. And so they've been providing an infrastructure there and supports for providers to be able to access consultants to assist them in the care that they provide, and also to provide those services for family members. So let's talk about councils. If a council is not working satisfactorily in your area, for any kind of change in the governance or support, you have to go through the county commissioner to effect some kind of pressure or change to make that agency operate better in your area. I also want to encourage you, rather than just contacting the council for support, I would encourage you to be in relationship with your early childhood council, because really together you're going to have the ability to strengthen the early childhood community in your area. Okay, so other state funding sources include Child Find through the Colorado Department of Education. So they're going to help you if you have a child in your care that has some challenging behaviors or needs an evaluation for special needs. They will connect you with the right place in order to get support for children in your care. Their whole goal is to make sure that by the time the kids hit the school system, that they're ready for school. And in the same way, the Colorado Department of Education has their preschool through 3rd grade program. And so at that link, you will find everything you need to know about preschool education. What is kindergarten readiness in the state of Colorado? What does that look like? What are the exact specifics? That will help you make sure that your program is more effective at getting kids kindergarten ready. There's also the CACFP, which is the Colorado Adult and Child Food Program that's offered through the State Health Department and local area sponsors. There's a link there to find the sponsors in the state. I'm going to not really go into a lot of detail about that program, but they reimburse you for food that you serve in your program. But I will say, if you're not participating in that program, you are leaving money on the table. You're not recouping everything that you could if you're just waiting for tax time. So you really need to reconsider on that. It's the equivalent of having a small part-time job on top of what you do. If you have questions about that, I'm happy to show you financials behind that or anything that'll help you to see really why it makes good business sense to be a part of the CACFP, not to mention the Sports for Kids. Other supportive programs and services are offered through nonprofit agencies. So the Colorado Early Childhood Education Association and the Colorado Family Child Care Association both operate in Colorado. They're available, the ECEA offers memberships to programs, centers, and homes. The Colorado Family Child Care Association is for home providers and advocates. The Early Learning Ventures is a platform that is available for a nominal fee every month, and actually you can receive services from them prior to being licensed until 6 months after you've received your license, so you've opened your doors. And on their platform, they have all kinds of documents and supports to help, like they have copies of policies and procedures and recommendations for contracts and all kinds of supports that are beneficial for you. The SBDC, John will go into further as far as what we can offer for you through here, but that's a newer opportunity out there to support providers in their businesses. Some for-profit entities are nurse consultants, business consultants like myself, independent coaches, and more recently, you may have heard of My Village or Wonder School in the Colorado area. I just say there's a lot of great things that these programs can offer you, but I do want you to be careful and cautious when you engage with a business to make sure that you understand financially what the implications are for your business. Some of these programs will charge you up to potentially 10% of your income if you sign a contract for a year or two. And so I want to make sure that you understand that all of those other resources that I mentioned to you before can offer the exact same services in a lot of ways, and really do that for free of charge. And so don't get caught in something that's not going to benefit you. Some consultants do different things, like systems change type initiatives or different things that are beneficial. So it might be worth engaging there, but be cautious when it comes to some of the rest of this. Nonprofit foundations. So there are a lot of foundations in Colorado actively working on early childhood issues. The Buell Foundation, Colorado EPIC, the Women's Foundation, Healthy Child Care Colorado, Early Milestones Colorado, Colorado Health Foundation. Those are just to name a few. They really are driving a lot of the initiatives in the state. They do a lot of research, and they are absolute advocates and support change for the better for families and providers statewide. For instance, Healthy Child Care Colorado is doing huddles, weekly huddles, and throughout COVID, they've been doing this so that they can have topics where they can support providers. And so you can go on and watch a huddle each week just to garner a little more free information on things that positively impact the health of children in our state. So the Early Childhood Leadership Coalition, the ECLC, is Colorado's federally authorized state advisory council for early childhood. The role of the ECLC is to be a statewide leader, subject matter expert, and champion of best and promising practices throughout the state. They are statutorily charged to assist public and private agencies in coordinating efforts to enhance alignment, which includes collaboration between 5 state departments. So they're working with significant stakeholders every month to make sure that they really have everything in alignment to best benefit providers and families. They advise and make recommendations to the Office of Early Childhood at CDHS. They develop strategies and monitor efforts to increase the access, quality, and equity of services and supports on behalf of pregnant women and children birth through age of 8. You can participate in monthly ECLC meetings or on one of their subcommittees. Those include data, quality and alignment, communications, early childhood workforce development, and PQA working groups. Those are held right now online, and you can go to their website that's there and see a calendar of meetings, get an invite to those, see what the agendas are, and read minutes from the meetings. So it's a very, very helpful way to stay in the know as far as what's happening in our state. More support comes through Clayton Early Learning Center. They have paid staff that do trainings for coaches, quality assessment services, research and evaluation services, policy and advocacy work, just to name a few things. So you can always go look up Clayton and see what they're up to now, because they're working actively to support providers statewide. Denver United Way is the state designated CCR&R, and if you have an opening, you can text OPEN to 898-2111 to update your availability in your program so that it stays current in the Colorado Shine system. As parents do a search, they'll be able to see what your availability is. As far as educational resources, I encourage you to get in touch with your council, because there are a ton of really great programs that are available these days for free. Incredible Years, Bright by 3, HIPPY, Parents as Teachers, Safe Care Colorado, and HCP, which is Healthcare Program for Children with Special Needs. Your council can help you get connected to any and all of those trainings. So getting involved, ways to do that. Obviously, your early childhood council is a good place for that. ECLC is a great place to get engaged and hear what the current real issues are, and to offer up your opinions, your concerns, ideas that you may have. Raise Colorado, they work to advance things for families and to support families. And so they have quarterly meetings, and they also have subcommittees that include Basic Essentials Work Group. They have an Infant Toddler Child Care Task Force, Infant and Maternity Mortality Prevention Work Group, Policy and Advocacy Work Groups. So they have people working on those issues at a very local level together as providers, as family members. And so as issues come up, they discuss those and see what they can do to positively impact those issues statewide. Your local association and statewide associations need you. And so if you're not a member, I encourage you to do so. But what you need to do is go and actually get involved. Don't just go sit at the table and listen. Your local association needs help in running the association and supporting providers in your area. The statewide association is looking for people to get involved, to be advocates, and you can do that. If you want to know every issue as it comes up, if you Google Chalkbeat newsletter, you can sign up for that newsletter, and in your box every day you will receive an update from Chalkbeat. They will let you know what the current issues are, not just in the school system, but in preschools and in childcare. Also, Colorado Children's Campaign is offering every 2 weeks an early childhood community check-in. So I encourage you to attend those. Bill Yeager from Colorado Children's Campaign does a phenomenal job of updating everybody in the system as far as what the current relevant issues are. And if you can't attend the actual check-in, he sends an excellent summary at the end so that you can see everything that was discussed each time. So other ways to get in the know is through the Early Childhood and School Readiness Legislative Commission. Normally, they meet in between sessions over the summer to discuss potential bills that are being proposed. Due to COVID this year, they are not meeting. However, if you go to that link, you can find the names of the commission members there. They are always open to hearing from early childhood professionals. If you have ideas or concerns, they would love to hear from you. You can also go to the Early Childhood Subpack that CDHS does. That's every month. And so they discuss welfare and child care policies. So it's a good way to know from that department what are potential changes that they're working on before you hear about it and it's already done. There's also an advisory committee on licensing of child care facilities. You can find that link on the OEC Office of Early Childhood website. There are members there that you can contact with any questions or concerns you have about licensing standards. So current state priorities. We've got a lot of pending issues right now. Obviously, COVID impacts a lot of that. As far as funding sources, as far as what's going to pass through the legislature this year, everything that had a fiscal this past year got killed. But it is still a good time to make sure some policy issues go through. There's also, so these three things, the SB 19-63, also referenced as SB 63, passed in 2019 and required the development of a strategic plan to address infant and family child care homes shortages in Colorado. So they developed a strategic plan around that has a ton of details that you can reference to see what the state intends to do in order to increase the number of providers. So I encourage you to go onto OEC's website and look that up. You can also find the preschool development grant birth through 5 information there. There was an award in 2018 through present, and so they actually have a strategic plan for 2020 through 2025, and those goals are to align and coordinate systems, innovate service delivery, maximize family knowledge and engagement, increase meaningful and equitable access, and strengthen business practices. Another strategic plan that is out there is the Colorado Early Childhood Workforce Plan for 2020 through 2023. And in this plan, you will see the goals, objectives, and activities for the Colorado child care workforce. So workforce development, cultivating the competencies of highly qualified, diverse early childhood workforce. Under that, they have 6 different bullet points on ways that they're going to work to accomplish that goal. Recruitment and retention, recruit and retain effective, qualified, and diverse early childhood educators. And so there's 4 bullets on ways that they intend to get there. Compensation, ensure worthy and livable compensation for EC educators. Leadership, leveraging comprehensive, collaborative, and responsive leadership to achieve the vision of this plan. Finance, they're really talking about how do we make sure that the system that's being developed to support providers and families is sustainable. Data and continuous quality improvements. So the PDIS, professional development site that you do trainings on at this point, is being updated or changed. And so at the end of the month, at the end of the year, there should be a completely new system there. And hopefully it works a little more effectively. I know there's a lot of challenges in the current system that they're trying to address. So this November, the biggest issue right now facing early childhood is the tobacco tax on the November ballot. This is called Prop EE. So if approved by voters in November, this measure would raise taxes on tobacco and institute a tax on nicotine vaping products for the first time. In Colorado, our vaping numbers are the highest in the nation for teenagers. And part of the reason is because there is not a tax on that. And it's also important to understand that in Colorado right now, 75,000 of our kids that are out here doing their fun kid thing, but trying out new bad things like tobacco are going to die from the addictions that they get there. So the first 2.5 years of revenue from the tobacco tax, if it passes, would support Colorado's recovery from coronavirus pandemic. And then starting in fiscal year 2023 through 24, the revenue collected from this tax will fund 10 hours per week of universal free voluntary preschool for all children in Colorado in their year prior to kindergarten, so primarily for 4-year-olds. Remaining funding would be prioritized to provide additional preschool programming for children from low-income families and children at risk of entering kindergarten without being school ready. It's estimated that this tax would produce between $168 and $187 million of funding for preschool in year one and could raise as much as $242 million for preschool by 2027. The challenge, though, is that we already have a declining workforce. And so if this initiative passes, what we have to have in place by June 30th of 2023 is enough staffing to support 20,000 half-day 4-year-old preschool slots. So that means we need an increase of 833 additional full-time preschool teachers based on the 1-to-12 ratio for that age group. It's pretty overwhelming, the prospects, and we really want to make sure that that's a mixed delivery system, that parents get to choose where their kids can do preschool. There are a lot of issues around that, and so there's a new preschool policy advisory group that's going to start meeting at the end of August of 2020. If you are interested in this issue, I encourage you to reach out to me and I will get you that link to that group, that invite to that group. Please come and participate. The real issue is that things are changing and they're continually growing, and all of these strategic plans that I told you about are out there, and different parts of the system are working on them. And so I want to encourage you, whatever your personal passion is, you need to engage, because if you get involved, if you love suicide prevention, then engage in suicide prevention from an early childhood perspective. Find ways to help build this system to support families so that they never have to lose a child to suicide again. If you are passionate about kindergarten readiness, home providers don't know a lot about what CDE says kindergarten readiness is, so be a part of the solution. Get involved. The sky is the limit, and the more involved everyone is, the better our system can be. We need you to be involved. You can reach me if you have any questions. Here's my name, email, and phone number. I'd be happy to send you any links or support that I can.
All right. Oh, well, that's great, Dawn. Thank you so much for this presentation and for all that information. We did have 2 questions come in. If you want to touch on either of these, that might be good.
Okay.
So Stephanie was asking about homeschooling, and if homeschooling falls underneath of the early childhood umbrella in the state of Colorado, and how does that work?
So it does not fall under the same umbrella. They have their own separate rules and regulations that they have to follow, including if the parents are not educating the kids, who else is allowed to do that, very specific degree designations and stuff. If you need that rule set, I can find it for you. I found it for someone else recently, so I can send that off to you. It is not my domain. I don't really spend any time in that, but we were looking at it because of the questions of parent pods that's come up recently with all of the issues for kids not being able to be at school all day, every day. Currently, we're expecting to hear from the governor's office as far as what his plan is for parent pods. We're hoping that obviously they need to exist because we don't have enough infrastructure to support families right now with our existing base of providers. But we want to make sure, for safety's sake, that they operate within legal parameters. And so legal unlicensed care has a limit of 4 children or 1 other family in addition to your own. So we're hoping that that guidance comes down that way.
Yes. Okay, and then our other question, I'm looking at the panel here, is from Heather, and she says, this webinar hooked me because it referenced upcoming changes, and so all this info will be useful. So that's more of a comment and just maybe a prop for you that yeah, there are a lot of changes, and it's really important, as you said, for people to stay engaged. And we'll see when November rolls around. If that tobacco bill passes, how long do you think that we would take for implementation of that before?
So June 30th of 2023, we'd have to be off and running. So that's why they have that group forming starting the end of this month. So if you're interested in participating, please let me know and I'll get you connected. The more voices, the better. Like, we can all work synergistically and do a better job.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, well, we're just about out of time. To wrap things up, I want to make just a few comments about North Metro SBDC and our partnership with Dawn and with ECPAC in Adams County. If you're not familiar with SBDC and this is your first exposure, the Small Business Development Center network, there's 15 centers in Colorado, and our mission is to help support and grow small businesses. And our services have, they've always been open to child care providers, but it's an exciting time for us because it's the first time that we're really focusing on tailoring our services to make it more welcoming and more applicable for child care providers. You can find out more information about this on our website, northmetrosbdc.com. We're rolling out our first small business fundamentals course for child care providers in September. And we're hoping that, if this model takes off, we'll be able to do many, many more courses in the future to help strengthen this portion of the economy. Folks, thank you for tuning in. And those of you who are with us through the technical difficulties, thanks for your patience on that. And we'll be posting this video to our YouTube channel a little bit later today. I'll send out an email. It's going to have these links from the presentation so that you can kind of go through and start exploring some of these wonderful resources that Dawn has mentioned. And our emails will be on there as well. So if you have any more questions and you want to get in touch with SBDC or with Dawn, then please feel free to reach out, and you can email her or email me, and we'll get you the answers you need. So thank you so much. And yeah, we'll see you next time.
Thanks.